If you're having friends over to watch the footy, remember with 23 delicious Lions players out on the ground, there's an amazing opportunity to see them smash the team in the brown and gold. So
2, 3, and
Hawk, Hawk, Hawk. Yeah, so now it's Friday evening and we have a bloody team to announce. So hit that bloody theme music now and then we'll talk about it. Welcome to our chat about our round 11 selection process and a little bit more, as we tend to do. This week we have two changes, and joining me now to discuss those changes and the changes the Hawks have made, which may generate a little bit of interest, is my co-host, Al McGovern. Welcome, Al.
The champ is here! The champ is here! The champ is here!
Ash, how are we?
Yeah, good, mate, good. Bit of a fun day at the office. Had a bit of a late finish and a bit busy, but yeah, all good
Yeah, I
now.
was also pretty busy this afternoon, actually. It was a pretty crazy end to the week.
Yeah. I reckon today was just one of those days, and it was weird because in Melbourne, I don't know what it was like in Brisbane or Ipswich or Gold Coast or anywhere up, major places up in your neck of the woods. But Melbourne and Geelong, and as the listeners know, I live in Geelong, well, near Geelong, close enough. But I do go to Melbourne every day for work. And in Melbourne and Geelong, it was a tradies RDO.
Oh, right.
So first half of the day, there was no traffic anywhere on the road.
Yep.
Beautiful. I was loving it. And then I, at a last minute thing, had to go to the complete opposite side as far east of Melbourne or of the Melbourne suburbs as I could go. Got there with no problem, but on the way back, suddenly a lot of people decided, hey, the tradies having an RDO, let's hit the road. And the fun began.
Is that how it works? They all have them on the same day?
Yeah, generally. It's just a union thing, I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the CFMEU wield a lot of power in this state and probably every other state.
No, that's true. There's a big, I live semi-close to one of the major highways, Centenary Highway up here, and there's this massive renovation going on, extending the bridge over near Jindalee.
Yep.
And there was a big protest there a couple of weeks back because apparently they're not, some of the materials aren't coming from Australia or something, and the union's not happy about it, so they were having a big strike out there. So yeah, sounds about right.
Yeah, well, I mean, we've got a tunnel getting built underneath our Westgate Bridge, which is like our version of the Sydney Harbour Bridge, which I didn't realise how big it was until I actually looked at it from side on from a distance a couple of weeks ago, and it's a massive bridge. And yeah, they're building a tunnel under it so they can ease all the congestion. So that's causing a lot of chaos. And of course, the unions and all their workers who pay their fees have decided that they need to get paid a little bit more because they're behind schedule, and it's all Dan Andrews' fault, even though he's not the premier anymore. So go figure, right?
Well, their project sounds great. I can't wait for it to be done in 15 years.
It was meant to be done by the end of this year, and since they got a pay rise a couple of months ago, suddenly they've worked a little bit faster, but it's going slow again.
Have you ever watched an Australian show called Utopia?
Oh, sort of, yeah. So
I highly recommend that, by the way, just as a little side note.
yeah, so I watched Who Do You Think You Are on SBS. It's a family history show, and they had Celia Piccola on it, who's one of the stars of Utopia.
Mm-hmm.
And they showed a couple of clips, so I was like, oh, this show looks all right. And Celia's, she's pretty funny or whatever. So, and I think it's
brilliant. It's like if you've ever worked in any kind of like state government or just any kind of white collar office job kind of thing, it's so spot on. Especially if you've worked in government, which I've worked in several government departments, and just the amount of time wasting and endless meetings and the red tape and just all that sort of stuff. But they have this episode on this massive project that keeps getting blown out time-wise and budget-wise, and they keep meeting with all the union reps and all the lawyers, and yeah, it's just brilliant. I think you'd love it.
Is that Rob Sitch that's in that as well?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, he's like considered by most people to be sort of Australian comedy royalty.
Yeah. He's I think he's the main character.
Yeah.
And he runs the company, and he's kind of like the only normal person, the one that kind of is just questioning everything. Like, why is this taking so long? Like, he's the straight man, basically.
Yeah, the straight man. I was about to say that.
So yeah, no, it's brilliant. I'd recommend it. It's on ABC. There's 5 seasons of it. Highly recommend checking it out.
Yeah, look, as I say, like I was planning on watching because I saw a couple of clips on Who Do You Think You Are, and I also saw a clip where they were talking about building a stadium in Tassie many years before it even happened, and
yep,
a little bit Simpsons like.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy actually, because that there's the latest seasons from this year, but the other 4 seasons are from like 10 years ago.
Yeah,
and yeah. So they talked about that Tasmanian stadium like 10 years ago in the show. It's crazy.
Yeah, well, I will definitely. So I'll have to get the ABC iView, I think it's called.
Yeah, it's a free app. You just got to create an account with them, and you can watch it all for free.
I'll get that on my smart TV because I don't have an aerial or an antenna or anything like that in my house. So yeah, I'm one of those crazy tinfoil nutters that, well, allegedly, who doesn't watch commercial TV.
Neither do I. I live in a fairly new house that was built in 2018, and I just don't think they even got around to building like an aerial on the roof. Like, there's no way for me to actually even watch free to air if I wanted to, which I don't particularly want to anyway.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, I've got KO, so I don't watch Channel 7 for the footy or the cricket because my good mate James Brayshaw, buddies from way back.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, well, he's an old boy. I'm just old. Yeah, so I guess we'll get into the footy, yeah?
Sure. Yeah, that's why we're here.
Yeah. So this is interesting for fans of the Lions, I guess, and the Hawks as well. This is the first time that we've played the Hawks at the Docklands. Yeah. I say the Docklands because I'm encompassing the history since 2000-ish, 1999, whenever it opened.
What Telstra Dome, Etihad, it's had a few names.
Yeah. Colonial Stadium has started out as.
Yep.
Yeah, so we've never played Hawthorn there. And also both Queensland teams are playing at Marvel Stadium this weekend.
Oh.
Yeah, I don't know if there's
anything. Who the Suns playing?
Carlton.
Oh, okay. I guess
and Kane Corns has tipped him. So so earlier tonight I chucked on KO while I was eating my dinner and had the Fox 504, I think the channel is, the footy channel.
Yeah, that's actual Fox footy, yeah.
Yeah, and there was a show with Corns, Kate McCarthy, who we know and love previously, of course. Yep. We're just friends with her now. We're friend zoned.
Before she went to the Saints?
Yeah, she friend zoned us. So
yeah.
And she's actually at the Hawks now, I think.
In like a coaching role. She's not playing anymore, is she?
Yeah, I don't think so, no. But she's like a really good media performer. She's on Triple M and Fox footy.
Yeah,
and never had an issue with her. Like, she was always lovely whenever we met her at like Lions Club events and whatever. And even when she went to St Kilda, I sent her a message and she sent one back saying, you know, I'll never forget the how good the fans were. So
yeah.
And Nathan Brown, old mate, was on it. And now I had it on the background at first and I couldn't see it. I could only hear it.
Yeah.
And I thought Lockie Neal was on it. Oh. And then I looked at the screen because I heard his voice. I was like, that sounds like Lockie Neal. And I look at the screen and I'm like, that bloke looks like Lockie Neal. But it wasn't. It was Isaac Smith. Now, have you ever seen Isaac Smith and Lockie Neal in the same room at the same time?
No, I don't think I have.
Or even on the same football field at the same time?
No. Isaac's usually injured at that time when we played them. I thought he hadn't played us in a while because obviously he swapped teams as well.
Yeah, so it's kind of like the Mackay twins, isn't it? Like,
yeah,
it's a bit of a.
Well, they're not twins; they're just one guy.
Yeah, brothers for another mother and father. So yeah, but no, the similarities are uncanny. And
now that you mention it, yeah, that's pretty. Yeah, I can see that now, and voice wise too.
Yeah,
Mannerisms
just
and everything.
that laconic way they talk as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, there was a little bit of talk that we were looking at drafting Isaac Smith, but obviously he's out of football now. So
Yeah.
So as I said at the top, we've had 2 changes in our team this week.
Yes.
Out for us, Eric Hipwood suspended and Shadow Brain omitted. I'm not happy about that, but
About both of them, or just the
no. I aired my thoughts on Hipwood the other day. Shadow Brain, look, I thought he should have been given a bit more of an opportunity than what he got.
Yeah.
But look, he gets to go and play a full game of football this week now, so there's I guess a little bit of an upside to that.
True.
Coming in, we have Zach Bailey, which is another part of the upside, I would say.
That's a massive in.
Yeah, like his ceiling is massive. So
it would be interesting to see though, because his form was pretty down for all the way up until he got injured. As he got injured, he was starting to get form in that game.
Yeah, we talked about that at the time. Yeah.
So I wonder if he's going to pick up where he left off, or if he's going to take a little while to get going again. That'd be interesting to keep an eye on.
Yeah, I reckon he'll be hungry.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah, and also coming into the team is a debutant, and some of the listeners will know where that little gag came from. It's actually debutant. Not looking in anyone's direction, Abby Holmes, but oh, I'm so bad. Yeah,
well,
so
she listens to this,
probably does actually. She probably, like after we mentioned her and her lovely husband recently.
Oh yes, that's true. We did.
The former West Coast Eagles star Keegan Brooksby.
Yes.
So Brandon Ryan, he's formerly played a few games for the Hawks. Probably knows
3, I think. I think it's only 3 senior games, I think. Yeah,
and played a bit of VFL at the Northern Bull Ants. Played a bit of local footy here in Geelong with Barwon Heads and with Geelong West. And
he's a bit of a mystery, isn't he? Because you've never really seen too much of him anywhere. He kind of moves around a lot. So.
Yeah, he's not really a journeyman. He's more sort of hit that utility status, hasn't he?
If we're counting VFL clubs, then for sure.
Yeah. I think if we count all football clubs, and in his 26 or so years, he's packed a few clubs in.
True.
Yeah. Look, I mean, he's obviously got a lot of football talent. I don't know if he's the best replacement for Eric Hipwood, but I don't know if he's the worst either.
Well, he's positionally very like for like.
Yeah.
But look, I haven't even seen a really good run of him in the VFL because he was injured for first few VFL games of the year, and then he played about 4 or 5, and then he's now got his call up. So we haven't even really got a good look at him at the twos, really. Yeah.
So it's going to be an interesting thing, and I think. And we talked about this in Messenger earlier today. There could be, like people have been screaming at all year, bring Brandon Ryan in instead of Eric Hipwood, gets a bit monotonous and whatever. Now, there's a big chance he goes out and doesn't have a good game, and there's nothing wrong with that.
No. Despite his age, he's still quite inexperienced at the same level.
And, he hasn't had a great deal of exposure to football this year, as we've just mentioned.
Yeah.
And look, chances are he may not have a good game. Look, he may have a ripper game, and I hope he does. But, I don't want the narrative from our fans or the media or anyone else to be, oh, well, clearly he's not up to the footy at the level.
Yeah.
So that's
we just got to keep in mind that this is his 4th game at the level.
That's correct, yeah. So this is a bit of a watch and act. Obviously, he'll be motivated a bit by playing against his old mob, and I'm sure that some of their backline players will give him a few nudges in the ribs and a few bumps in the shoulder and that sort of thing.
Yeah, of course.
That's footy.
But, he might have a really bad game, but, one thing's for sure is he's definitely not getting dropped next week.
Whoa, Natty, you mentioned it. And for those who haven't figured it out, in the last 3 seconds, we have the bye.
So he's not playing next week, but he's also not getting dropped next week.
Oh, look, he could play VFL, I suppose, but yeah.
True. Do you think they'll sync up the VFL bye as well? I think we just had one in the VFL.
Yeah, we had one a couple of weeks ago, so It's
I'll
weird.
look that up now.
Remember that first year when they had all the Queensland and NEFL teams and New South Wales teams in? It was like 27 teams or something.
Oh, it was unreal.
And like it was like Oprah was handing out buys every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You get a buy, you get a buy.
yeah, everybody gets a buy.
Okay,
This
so
one-
I just checked. The Lions do have a buy in the VFL next week as well.
all right, there you go.
So no one's playing footy next week.
All right, so do any of our young draftees have a birthday? Because they might need to go home and not feel lonely. Like, hasn't that been overblown by the media, the Harley Reid stuff? Like, just, oh, God.
Anything with Sam McClure attached to him is just next level nuffy, isn't it?
Yeah, that's it. And I guess we better get into the team we're playing against. In case anyone forgot, we're playing against the Hawks. And this Sunday, 1:10 in the afternoon, I think it is, at Marvel Stadium. I will be there, and our sometimes special guest / sometimes co-host Neil Butler will be seated beside me, as a matter of fact. So, yeah, I'm sure Neil and I will have a few stories to tell. And for the Hawks, coming in this week is I think he's still the skipper, James Sicily.
I think that's right, yeah.
Yeah, that's a big in for them. It's nothing like having a bloke who gets 42 cheap disposals out the back every week and doesn't do much with them. But I swear, if that bites me on the arse, I will not be happy.
You'll have to eat your hat next week, mate.
Mate, I'll eat more than my hat. I'll eat my work boots as well. Jack Scrimshaw comes in for them, ex-Gold Coast, I think. He's been there a couple of years now, in and out of the team, gets injured a bit, gets dropped a bit. Talented footballer from what I remember from his early days, though.
Yeah, I think so, yeah. A lot of potential there at the beginning.
Yeah, and also coming in for them, surprise, surprise, is this young, sprightly fellow by the name of Jack Gunston.
Former Brisbane Lions champion, Jack Gunston. Thank you very much.
Yeah, 7-goal kicker against one of the best opposition teams of the season, of course.
True.
Elia was the Witches Hats, the West Coast Eagles.
And this is his first game against his old club. Remember that?
Yeah, well, that's it. Because he didn't play against he did play against the Hawks last year, didn't he?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Yeah, that was a week before him and Daniel Rich dropped themselves.
True. Oh, yes, courageously.
Sorry.
Definitely their decision.
They omitted themselves because we're not allowed to say dropped anymore.
No. That's bad.
Yeah, it's
put 10 cents in the jar, mate.
Yeah, I know. That's a 15. No, that's a $20 fine now.
Oh, wow.
Because as you said,
inflation, mate.
It doubles every time you get a new one.
That's true.
So we're up to $35 in the kitty now. So yeah, and dropped. Oh, it's up to 40.
Mate, it just keeps rising.
Oh man. Okay. Managed by the Hawks is Nick Watson.
Yep.
Who I just traded into my fantasy team this week. And how do I feel? I trade him in thinking he's going to play because he's played every game and they manage him. Good on your Hawks. Sam Mitchell, you're a legend.
I love that they try and make it look like there's a difference between managed and omitted.
Yeah, maybe it's his birthday this week. And Jai Sarong and Ethan Phillips are omitted. And I did have to look twice when I looked and it just said E. Phillips. I was like, oh, Erin Phillips plays for him now. And I mean, she has a family connection through Sean Burgoyne after all.
She's just that good.
Oh, mate, she's good though. I actually, so at the women's grand final last year, my son and I sort of walked past her and stopped and said hello and whatever. And she's not as tall as I thought she'd be. It was like, in that movie Roadhouse where the bloke goes, I thought you'd be bigger.
That's true. They remade that recently, didn't they?
Well, I don't know if it's really a remake. I see it as more of a new one, almost like a sequel.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I just know it's got Jake Gyllenhaal in it, and I really like him in movies.
I watched it. I really liked it. A lot of people didn't. And now I'm not a UFC fan. I'm not really a Conor McGregor fan, but geez, he was awesome in that movie.
I didn't know he was in it.
Yeah, he was so good as the bad guy. But Jake Gyllenhaal was awesome.
Yep.
They woke up a couple of the characters sort of modernised them a bit. But yeah,
Okay.
it was good. But anyway, back to the footy. What do you make of any thoughts on the Hawks changes?
Well, it's interesting. I mean, they're arguably their best player comes back in, so that's frustrating timing for us.
Jack Scrimshaw, you mean?
Of course, yes.
Yep.
Jack Scrimshaw. No, James Sicily, obviously.
Yeah, well, allegedly.
All three of their ins start with J. Are just two Jacks and a James.
There's
Interesting.
JS, and JG.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
So yeah, Sicily always tends to have a pretty good game against us, so that'll be an interesting one to watch.
Yeah, got suspended last time he played against us, and there was a few different schools of thought on whether he should have been or not. I could have mounted cases in both directions for that at the time.
Yeah,
but I backed our boy Hugh McCluggage in, and that's nothing wrong with that because he's our boy.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. All right. Well, I guess we'll just get into some general news.
Well, what do you think about the Brandon Ryan inclusion? What's your opinion on that?
Look, as I said, I don't think he's the best or the worst replacement for Eric Hipwood. I probably would have gone with Darcy Fort. Just because he's sort of, he's obviously the guy that's usually our guy that we bring in.
Yeah.
For a replacement for a tall forward or a ruckman, or possibly Henry Smith. He's sort of, and I had this in my list of stuff that I was going to ask a bit later on, but I'll probably just bring it up now. Where is Henry Smith at now? Because I thought he would have been probably next in line for a debut myself, and I have mentioned that.
Well, he was on the extended bench for this game, as we know, which
that's right.
I'm a big fan of extended benches.
You love it.
Love it. But yeah, he's a bit of a weird one because I probably would have put him in over Fort and over Ryan, to be honest, just on VFL form.
Yeah.
But he wasn't in the team for the last couple of weeks, but he wasn't on the injury list either.
No.
He kind of just disappeared for a few weeks. And I did some digging and I actually found out the answer to this. Did you know the answer or?
No, I didn't. I was going to ask you actually.
So I did some digging, and I found out that he was out with an eye injury that he got against Southport in the VFL a few weeks back. But for some reason, he wasn't on the injury list. The club just kind of hid it for some reason.
Yeah, maybe because they might have been pushed to get a concussion protocols put on him and stuff like that as well.
No idea. But
yeah,
this was his first week back from being eligible to play again.
Yep.
And then he was also on the extended bench. So I thought he was a good chance of coming in.
Yeah.
Just on form alone, because he's had a pretty good season so far in the VFL.
Well, I got a message from my son late last night. Oh, Henry Smith's going to debut this week. Lock it in. And I just said, nah, look, I reckon as much as I'd love him to get a game, I reckon it's going to be Brandon Ryan. Just the club playing a bit safer, I think.
I thought that they probably would bring Ford in, but I wanted them to bring Henry Smith in.
Yeah, look, I probably would go the same way. And look, getting back to what you're saying about him missing so for the last couple of weeks, and now we know why. Actually, my original notes were we haven't seen Henry Smith for a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Then when he was named on the extended bench, I just changed it to just Henry Smith.
Yeah.
So I guess, I wanted to sort of get a gauge on where he's at as far as it all goes now. So it's going to be a watch and act over the next sort of few games to see if he gets in as an emergency or maybe on the extended bench if we've got any more Sunday games as well.
Yeah, well, I mean, you'd think that they'd pick the extended bench based on guys who were around the mark, and you think that the guys who don't get selected from the extended bench in the final team are probably the guys that would be the emergencies.
Yeah, and he's been on 2 extended benches this year, I think, maybe 3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just looking at the list now, actually. So Henry Smith, James Tunstall, and Dara Joyce are all the emergencies. So they were the other 3 guys on the extended bench. So that makes sense. And
I had some mail earlier in the week that Tunstall was potentially coming into the team or at least into the squad. And as I said to you last night, I put a cryptic little Facebook post up during the week and no one had any idea what I was talking about. And I fell flat on my ass with that one. That really went well. Yeah, I got 2 bites with people asking what the hell does this mean, and
I don't know what your news was on that one, mate, because unless it was a last minute decision, like that was what they were going to do, but then they changed it at the last minute.
yeah, I don't know. It was just most likely in the squad was what I was told, but
Mm,
possibly in the team. But I think it was more because they were just watching what was happening with Hugh McCluggage,
mm.
and he's not necessarily a like for like, but he's close enough to a like for like.
Out of the guy, well, I mean, I guess because Bailey's in as well, so yeah,
Yeah,
it'd be interesting to see what that would have done. But thankfully, we still have McCluggage, and he wasn't actually injured. It was just definitely precautionary.
yeah, that's right. And speaking of Hugh McCluggage, so Mitch Cleary is reporting that there's a lot of confidence now that McCluggage is going to re-sign or has re-signed.
Yep, on a big
Um,
deal.
yeah, that's been reported pretty heavily across all the various media outlets, quoting Mitch Cleary on that one. So I'm sure everybody's seen the video or heard the radio snippet or whatever it was. I just read it because, that's me. I like to read things.
Yep.
Um, Something we missed earlier in the week as well. Kyle Lohman was named the Rising Star nominee for this week,
Yes. Yeah.
which it's a long time coming since he got drafted, but he's still in the age group and he hasn't played in a lot of games, so he qualifies.
Yeah, I honestly didn't even consider that it was a possibility because of
Yeah,
how long ago he was drafted. I thought he would be totally out of the bracket. So I was very surprised to see it. But it was, it's a great thing. It's a good to get your work acknowledged by the broader AFL. So that's good. I'm wrapped for him. I just didn't think
yeah.
that he would be eligible for that anymore.
Wouldn't it be interesting if he actually ended up possibly winning it or running in the top three? When at
Yeah,
the start of the year, nobody anywhere except maybe himself and his family would have thought he was even eligible.
true.
Yeah,
I mean, we've had guys nominated twice before. I mean, Alex Witherden was nominated twice and he didn't win.
yeah, yeah. I think he came. Oh, geez, I think he finished ahead of Eric Hipwood and Cam Rayner in his first year.
Mm.
No, or did we draft Rayner at the end of that year? No, I think. Well, he finished in front of Eric Hipwood, who I think got 2 nominations as well. And then,
Witherden and Rayner. Oh no, they were a year before. So Rayner was the year after. That's right,
yeah, so
because he
so
was
maybe
McCluggage's draft.
maybe Hipwood didn't get a nomination in his first year. It's so long ago, I can't remember. He didn't play that many games, but yeah,
That's
so
because he was outshadowed by Josh Shackey.
yeah, and Josh Walker. It was the Josh show.
True. Yeah, true.
Yeah, and Michael Close.
Mm.
He was actually a good player till he did his knee, and then he also got a bad head injury as well. So
Yeah, we had a lot of bad luck with concussions around that time.
yeah. Well, he ended up having some bleeding on his brain at the time, which
Oof.
was really like I felt sick in the guts when I heard it at the time. So
Yeah, well, that just
um,
took me back to Paris Andrews with Jeremy Cameron.
yeah, well, yeah, that's right. Yeah, yeah. Well,
God, I'm so glad that didn't end Paris Andrews' career as well.
oh yeah, I know. Like, but even just like from his health point of view as well.
Oh, for sure. But I
Yeah,
mean,
you don't want to see anyone cop injuries like that.
no,
Doesn't matter who they are.
no, of course.
Um, yeah, so I guess we've got the draft coming up next week, and I think the kibosh has been put on the Daniel Lloyd thing. We won't need to go into any more details about that. Enough's been said. Some people have had one version, others have had different versions, and whatever. We're obviously not picking him up, and that's life. Kyle Dunkley has nominated, apparently.
Yeah, so I read through briefly one of the AFL articles, and it was basically just talking about a few significant players that had put their hand up, and Cole Dunkley was one of the ones in the initial paragraph. So that was an interesting one. Obviously, they think he's a significant chance of getting picked up by someone. So, do you think it
Yeah.
would be us, or do you think do you think he's going to leave and head to someone else, or
Look, I think it's most likely us.
yeah,
Like, it makes more sense. He's been playing for us anyway, and he lives up there now, and obviously his brother's up there and
that's
whatnot.
true. And he has been one of our better VFL players.
Yeah, I think I've mentioned him a couple of times in the reports that he's had a good game,
Yeah,
and yeah, like Josh quite often will go on his pod and say, "Oh, Kaiser's really loving it up here" and that sort of thing. So, yeah,
Well, we do have potentially up to 4 list spots that we could take in the draft, so I think he's probably a pretty good chance.
Yeah, so we probably won't talk too much more about the mid-season draft tonight, other than to say there's some negotiations taking place and it's an availability thing. I may have someone on. I can't promise it. I am working hard. May have someone on who will be able to explain how the mid-season draft works a lot better than what we can.
Have we got to discuss this with their manager or an agent, have we?
Something like that. I can't. No, if I say any more,
I got a pocket full of lint we can offer them. That's about it.
I've got some Monopoly money.
I was going to say the show's got a very thin budget.
Yeah, that's it. Like,
not many free agents coming to us.
Yeah. So, speaking of which, in former players who play local footy news, bit of action in the Quaffle last weekend. So, old mate Matho playing for Wilston Grange. Is that how you say it, or do you say it?
That's correct. Yep.
Wilston Grange as one thing, or is it hyphenated?
Well, it's just pronounced Wilston Grange.
Okay.
So yeah,
they're the Gorillas, I believe. So
that's
a bit
correct.
of a Fitzroy connection there, probably. So yeah, Matho went out and got 38 disposals, 2 contested marks, 3 clearances, 2 tackles, and a goal. And they beat your boys, the Sherwood Magpies.
Yeah.
My
boys.
Yeah. Hey, you've added yourself now, mate. So
I have a family connection, but yeah, no, I definitely don't go for them.
Hey, it's I guess it's me having a family connection to the Western Bulldogs.
Ugh, yeah.
Oh no,
I think that's much worse.
I'm like Homer Simpson right now, pouring bleach into my eyes. Yeah, the family connection may not last much longer. It's between you and me, but anyway. That might give too much away. So, John O'Freeman. Remember John O'Freeman?
I do remember Freeman.
So, he's a bit of a journeyman because he went over to East Perth with Nick Robbo for a little bit, but then COVID hit and he went back to Queensland.
Yeah, he's played for Aspley for a long time.
Yeah, he played for Aspley. I think he might have played with Matt Hamilton of Redlands for a bit.
Yeah, and Hamilton also went to the Southport as well, I think.
Yeah, and so John O'Freeman kicked 4 goals, 18 disposals, 6 marks, 2 clearances, 3 tackles. That's career best figures for Jono, I reckon.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, I've got his autograph on a footy, but that's the only thing I can remember about his AFL career, and that's sad because I should know better than that.
Yeah.
I'm setting a $5 fine on myself for not knowing much about John O'Freeman's AFL career, other than he signed a football.
Jeez, mate, these fines are racking up.
I know, mate. Our end of season trip to probably Macca's or somewhere is going.
Yeah.
I've got to say Macca's because they sponsor the club and all that, but
we're not contractually obligated to mention them, no.
Correct, and we all know it's probably going to be more likely at the Pineapple or somewhere, but.
True.
And speaking of which, so if anyone who out there likes, and I shouldn't be plugging a company, but I'm not doing a John Laws and doing what do they call it? I don't know, ads for cash or something like that. The Grilled, who do nice burgers and stuff. They actually have a promotion on for this whole season where if you go into their app, select your AFL team that you support, which of course is the Brisbane Lions. Everybody in the world goes for the Brisbane Lions. Well. When they win, you get a 2 burgers for the price of 1 on the Monday.
Right.
So I took my daughter this week. We both went, and it's the first time we've ever had Grilled, and I'm hoping that we win a lot because they were good.
Grilled's good burgers, yeah. I actually quite like them a lot. They don't fry anything. It's all as the name of the restaurant says. It's grilled. Yeah, and the service was good and everything. So, yeah, if anybody from Grilled is listening and want to sling us a few more burgers for free, we will happily accept them. Casting a wide net there, mate.
Yeah. So so John O'Freeman was playing for Noosa, by the way.
Yep.
Also in that game was. Our man Daniel Rich.
Yeah,
Just give me 2 seconds. I need a drink.
it's a bit bittersweet, isn't it? Because I, it if he's playing footy like that, it to me it says that he wasn't ready to retire.
Yeah, but look,
Um,
it's a big difference getting 38 in a quaffle to running around in the AFL where it's a hell of a lot faster and
oh, for sure, he was too slow.
yeah,
Um,
and it moves a lot faster. They hit harder.
hmm.
You've got to train, 5 days a week. Whereas I'm assuming in the quaffle it's probably 2 or 3 nights a week after work.
Yeah, but it's like obviously it was he probably got a tap on the shoulder from the club and it was like, hey, it's time. But when they come out and they go, you know, they obviously don't mention, oh, the club thinks it's time. They always go, yeah, no, I just thought it was a good time to retire and all that sort of stuff. But then if you
Yeah,
see them playing, league footy the next year, state league footy, then it kind of goes, well, you clearly thought that you could still play because you're otherwise, if your body was cooked, you wouldn't be running around in the twos. Like,
yeah. Well,
yeah.
he's gone out and gotten 38 disposals and kicked a lot of goals. I can't remember how many it was, but it was maybe six or
Well,
seven.
that's interesting because he's not a notorious goal kicker even in his prime.
Yeah, so he's been playing. So he got 8 goals, and
Mm.
so the coach was Matty Leuenberger, another former Lion.
Yeah, wow.
And he referred to Richie as a dead-eyed dick. That's an old saying. I don't think Matty Leuenberger's old enough to even have used that before in his life.
No, he's not that much older than Rich, I don't think.
No, I don't even think he is. Yeah, no, he was drafted when Voss was still playing, like right at the end of Voss's career.
Yeah, but I mean, when did Voss retire? 2000 and what, five,
Seven,
six,
seven.
seven? So 2 years before
Yeah,
Rich was drafted. So that's not that big of a gap.
yeah, that's right.
Actually, 1 year because it was 2008 that he was drafted, Rich.
Yeah. Debut year was '09
Yeah.
and Rising Star and all that.
So they only just
Um,
missed each other. Obviously, he was coached by him for a while, but yeah.
yeah, pretty decent draft that year. Daniel Rich and Nick Natanui drafted at the Waffle, and there was a whole heap of other players who I can't remember because they're not really significant to me anymore.
Mm.
In that top 10, it was no Luke Hodge, Luke Ball,
Oh, the
Chris,
2001 Super Draft.
yeah, Chris Judd super draft, but
The one where
yeah,
they always reference every year at the draft and they go, this draft could be as good as that draft. And they say it every single year.
and we all know it never will be.
Yeah, there's usually like 1 or 2 stars and then a lot of pretty decent players and then a lot of ordinary players.
Yeah, and so I guess that sort of does sort of bring me to something. I was going to bring this up in Media Watch, but I'm just going to bring it now because otherwise I'll forget. Um, Old mate Robbo, or as some like to call him, Slobbo,
Mm-hmm.
and as I just like to call him, that drunk uncle that you find creepy and cringy and you don't want to be stuck talking to at the family barbecue.
Yep.
Comparing Harley Reid to Gary Ablett Jr., Dustin Martin, and Buddy Franklin.
Oh, well, he's
Um,
clearly already better than all of them,
no,
right?
no, look, I like Harley. He's obviously a really good footballer. Seems to
Mm.
have a good head on his shoulders and seems to be pretty resilient because he's copping so much media attention and he's not outwardly letting it get to him. He's,
Yeah.
it's not his footy's not suffering and whatever. And obviously, he's given the Eagles fans a lot of hope. But like, God, I mean, Robbo and Buddy, I forget his name over in WA. He's not worth mentioning.
Mm.
With their obsessions with him, just let the kid play football. He's 19. Let him go.
Mm.
Like he's going to be a superstar. We all know this. And in 3 or 4 years' time, when he's ready to change clubs, he's coming to Brisbane. We also all know this.
Yeah, we're giving him Hipwood. We're giving him
well,
who else can we chuck on that one?
well, Hipwood famously, according to Freo fans a few years back, was recruited from Broome in far north Western Australia. So,
Yeah, I don't think so. Not sure where they got that one from.
yeah, funny
He's a
story.
sunny coast boy.
Born in Melbourne, raised in the sunny coast.
That's right.
Yeah, that was hilarious when that happened. But yeah, so back in a bit of news. So just a quick one on State of Origin footy. Every year when the NRL has their Origin series, Gary Lyon or Jason Dunstall or some boomer come out and go, "Oh, it's a disgrace the AFL doesn't do this anymore."
Mm.
I don't think it's something that we can really do. I mean, the clubs don't want it because there's too much injury risk.
Now that you mention it, so I famously don't really like the NRL.
Yeah.
How do they pause the season while it's happening, or do those guys have to play twice in a week? How
No,
does that work?
so they used to play twice in a week, but then I think they started making guys who got picked in Origin not play.
Yeah,
Because I remember there was a period where every year, like Melbourne Storm would be 3 games clear going into Origin week, the first week, and then after Origin, there'd be 1 game down on the top team.
yeah,
Because they like Queensland would have about 7 players from the club, and the same thing would happen to the Broncos.
yeah.
But I know they do have a bye or two at some stage in it. Now, I must admit, the last 2 years I haven't had the time to really get deep into the NRL. As much as I would love to follow the Storm a lot more.
Yeah.
But because I don't watch TV and that sort of thing, regular TV, I'll fall behind a little bit on what's going on. So I'm sure, and we have got some great feedback from a couple of people. Some really long messages have come in explaining a couple of things that we were asking about last episode.
Okay, well, that's good.
In regards to the crowd, in regards to at the Gabba, certain songs do get played for a little bit longer and a little bit louder.
Okay, well, that's good to know.
They're the ones that are more well known crowd participation type songs. Like some of the more obscure songs that not many people really know. Like for example, Logan Morris's goal song was one of the younger players who have sort of more obscure sort of rave party type music or whatever.
Yeah, I couldn't even tell you what his song was, and
So
we've heard it a few times now.
his was a remix of a Kylie Minogue song. I've been reliably informed.
Oh, okay.
I couldn't hear it, but yeah. So the feedback I got from a few people, one in particular, Deb, who's been on the show before, and
yep.
she said, yeah, look, they do crank it up a bit for Country Roads, for Hugh McCluggage, Zach Bailey. I'm pretty sure she said one other one.
Rainers, I think, too, because here's a Sweet Caroline.
Sweet Caroline, that's the one. Yeah. It's those general sort of karaoke sing-along songs.
Yeah.
And also Jules, who's been on with us as well, one of our best friends in the world.
Yeah.
We had a bit of a best friends, Step Brothers movie, best friends moment today in regards to something. She sort of let me know that the crowd was probably a bit down because of Magic Round in the NRL.
Yep.
And
that's a good point.
Pointing out that a lot of Richmond fans left early as well.
Yeah,
but
you could see him leaving on the broadcast at quarter time, really.
Yeah, and I've had probably about 4 or 5 people message me and say that's the least Richmond-centric crowd they've ever seen at the Gabba in like all their years ago to the footy, even when Richmond were previously no good. So that's not good signs for Richmond, but it doesn't affect us. I want to see, like when I go out there, I want to see a packed house and hear everybody losing their minds over a big win.
Oh yeah, and like going back to those songs for a second. So obviously, Country Roads, that's the top one with the fans.
Yeah.
So much so that they'll continue singing it after the song ends into the next play.
Yeah.
But Hey Jude and Sweet Caroline always go off as well. The Elsa one, I don't know if people sing along to it as much, but it gets played pretty loud, much louder than the guys who don't kick a lot of goals. Just because Danaher usually kicks, between 1 and 3 a game.
Well, he's kicked 170 goals for our club, so
geez, that's pretty good, isn't it? He hasn't been here for that many years.
And 3 1/3 years, and he was injured for the whole entirety of one of those years.
Yeah,
and it's just what makes me laugh when people are like, "Oh, he's done nothing for us."
He's been a massive pickup.
Yeah, and I reckon there's a little bit more to that song choice than, he didn't want a song anyway, so Dane Zorko just picked one at random. I think there's a little bit more to that, but we've
foil again, mate.
Yeah, with Joe, there's always little mysteries, isn't there?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I love about him. Well, one of the many things I love about him.
That's right.
So I guess we went on a tangent then back to the state footy. I don't think that it's something we can do in the AFL anymore. maybe once every 4 years they could do it like an exhibition or something, like they did to raise money for the bushfires a few years back.
Well, I'm surprised they haven't. Like, it's been a few years since we've done anything. I mean, we had,
Yeah,
the AFLX, and we had, the international series games, and then we
yeah.
had,
Well,
you
yeah,
know, like
had a
we've
couple
done
of COVID years in amongst that. So,
true, but
but
yeah,
yeah, the other thing too is public interest, interest from the clubs. The clubs and the players now. It's a bit like for the soccer fans out there, they'll recall back, even like basketball fans, when all the international players didn't want to play for the Socceroos or the Boomers, just because of they're getting paid so much money overseas that there was too much injury risk and loss of income risk.
yeah, true.
And like the prevalence of knee injuries has gone up across the whole entire football, like not just in the AFL, but the VFL, the AFLW, some of the other state leagues as well. I'm
That
not,
really needs to be looked into. Hey, I
yeah,
have no idea what could be causing it, but it has skyrocketed. It seems anyway, just from like a pure. I haven't read the stats, but from a observation point of view, it seems like it's the numbers skyrocketed a lot. I mean, we have 5 guys on our list right now recovering
yeah,
from these.
and yeah, there's other clubs that have a fair few guys as well, and it's just yeah, and like Latrobe Uni in Melbourne are now conducting a study, and it's mainly based on the women's game because of the prevalence of ACL and other knee
Mm,
injuries there. But it's they'll be looking into the men as well. You can guarantee that.
yeah, for
Um,
sure.
so yeah, like state footy for me is a no state of origin. The only way I could see it being done is maybe the leftover players from the 16 clubs that don't make the grand final. They much like what they do in the NFL in America. They have an exhibition a week before the grand final as a curtain raiser.
It's the wild
Um,
card, isn't it, or is it?
yeah, something like that, or
Yeah,
maybe in the bye week because by the time the grand final week rolls around, all those guys, like the guys whose teams didn't make the finals, they've already been on annual leave for a couple of weeks, and
yeah.
yeah, so it's like how do you do it? I don't know how you can do it. You got any thoughts on that at all?
Yeah, look, I don't know what system I would implement if I was given the power, um, but it feels like we're lacking a little something. I mean, the traditionalists would just say just leave it alone,
Yeah,
and I wasn't a huge fan of AFLX. It was fine. I thought the one where they had, I thought the best iteration of it was where they had just people playing for their actual clubs.
yeah,
I
and
didn't like when they formed like the super teams and then they had like them come in and like did like a red carpet walk with like suits and stuff. I thought that was really cringy and
yeah,
pretty
yeah.
lame.
They're trying too hard to be like the NBA and whatever, but
Yeah,
yeah,
I
look,
didn't like that. But I liked the one where they did, I think it was the year before that, where people actually just played for their club.
yeah, but they had three separate premierships in that one carnival, and we won one of them,
Hmm.
and I still remember the photo of the boys holding up the Big X trophy,
Oh, yeah.
and our boy Hingy had the biggest smile I've ever seen. It's like, um, mate, you're enjoying this win a little bit too much for what it is.
Yeah, look, like, looking back on that team, I have to try and remember who all of our players were. But I remember, like,
Um,
across all, I know Mitch Robinson was in there. I think
yeah,
Daniel Rich
Daniel
was in there.
Rich, Rowan Buick, Hingy. Uh,
Yeah, it was a big team, but it was
yeah,
I remember there was a lot of at the time young and untried players, and
yeah.
it was a way for a lot of teams to test.
Corey Lyons, I think.
Yeah, it was a way for a lot of guys to a lot of teams to test their untried players at that point to kind of see what they had.
Yep.
And I remember there was a lot of guys across other teams who were kind of no names at that time, but used that as a stepping stone to kind of launch their career. And one of the perfect examples is I've forgotten his name again. We talked about him last week. Plays for Richmond, a young Indigenous fella, always kicks a bunch of goals.
Oh, Shea Bolton.
Shy Bolton, yeah, his
Yeah.
like first ever like I guess you could say there was a senior game, but it was AFLX was his first non-VFL game. I remember him lighting it up for Richmond, and they went, "Ooh, who's this guy?" And then
Yeah.
he kind of jumped into their senior team from there, and then never looked back. So yeah, I wouldn't mind bringing back something of that ilk. I think the way that they did the super goals and stuff was a bit lame, but some
Yeah.
kind of some kind of format there would be pretty good.
And
Um,
in the mid 90s, they had a Lightning Carnival as well. which I think the Bears didn't even participate in.
Hmm.
Or might have been, yeah, I think the Bears and maybe Fitzroy and one other club didn't participate because of they didn't have the money or whatever to get around or whatever. But I can't remember. It was so long ago. But
And I
yeah,
didn't mind the international series, but it was clear that we were always just going to win. Like
yeah,
Ireland was never going to win because they had semi-professional athletes against professional athletes. And, we made a lot of, allowances to give them kind of a bit more of an advantage because obviously we went to playing with a round ball and
yeah,
stuff. So try and disadvantage our guys, but it was always just a blitzing. Like,
yeah. And I think Chris Johnson and Brad Scott belting a few of their blokes, and then Fev getting a barman in a headlock, and
hmm,
some of the other shenanigans kind of didn't really help us either.
no. But
Um,
I'd love to see the AFL experiment on doing something, even if they
yeah,
just invent something completely new that's, not AFLX, just something different.
yeah.
I'd be on board with trying it out, but when would you do it? Would you do it at the beginning of the season, the middle of the buys? Would you do it, like you said before, the teams that don't make the finals? There's options. I don't know what the best option would be, though.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, the Waffle and the Sample have had a state game last week, and they played off, and the Sample won by about 7,000 points.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, but that was a state of origin because they obviously had guys from other states. It was just a state state league versus state league,
But was it like
and
under 18s or how did that work?
no, it was senior players.
Okay.
Yeah, so yeah, that works in that format, and I think the VFL. Well, yeah, the VFL played the sample earlier in the year, and it was just the Victorian VFL teams. And I guess rightly so because they're wearing a Victorian jumper.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, so just these two really quickly. We'll try not to
Sure. Yeah.
tangent on them because they're not really Brisbane related. Well, they're not at all. So Tom Liberatore's had some pretty shocking. That's Tom Liberatore of the Western Bulldogs has had some pretty shocking concussion related injuries, and he's looked really, really ill a couple of times. The
Mm.
AFL did an investigation into whether he should keep playing on. And to my surprise, they actually said, no, he's fine. There's nothing wrong with him. He's going to keep playing now. I feel bad for Tom Liberatore. I think later in life, he's going to really suffer from this.
Yeah, it did kind of have like mirrorings of the Angus Brayshaw one earlier in the year, didn't it?
Yeah. And yeah, there's been a couple of things going on with the concussions, like, Jeremy Cameron the other week not coming off and Geelong not getting fined, whereas, Port Adelaide last year or the year before got fined a hell of a lot of money for Lear doing the same thing. And
Mm.
yeah, the AFL still can't get the messaging right around concussion and head injuries. And this is one area where I do agree with David King.
Mm.
He probably takes it a little bit too personally, but he's right. Like the AFL needs to have a clear message and a clear line in the sand to say, right, this is the line. Anything that crosses that line, that player doesn't play. Or if that
Yeah.
guy causes a concussion through these actions, he gets rubbed out. And that brings me to Luke Parker, who caused some pretty serious injuries to a guy playing in the VFL from the Frankston Dolphins on the weekend. This is a guy
Yeah.
who's not a professional footballer. He has a day job, and he plays almost amateur level football. He doesn't get paid much to play
Yeah.
footy, and now he's not going to be able to go to work for quite some time. He's had surgery. He's not in hospital. Luke Parker gets 6 weeks. I thought that was a good statement. Most of the media were saying he should have got 3 to 4, but then, and I don't know if this has actually taken place or not yet, but the Swans signalled they were going to challenge it. I've been out of the loop a bit.
Hmm.
So I don't know if they have. So I probably should have come better prepared for that.
I haven't heard too much about that one, whether they were going to challenge or not.
Yeah. So if that was my football club, I was running the club, and one of my guys inflicted those sort of injuries, and he got 6 weeks, I would have said, mate, cop it on the chin.
Mm.
You're lucky
Yeah.
you only got 6.
Yeah, true. I mean, I have this, this gripe where, because obviously there's a bit of mixed messaging, like you said, when it comes to head-eye contact and all that sort of stuff. The AFL comes in and goes, unacceptable, under no circumstances, not allowed, blah, 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 blah. But then the AFL and like Fox Footy and stuff, they'll put together these like highlights packages for commercials for games and
Yeah.
advertising the season and stuff like that. And in the highlights packages, they'll have contact like from tackles and stuff that from previous seasons that I know that tackle it looks cool, but I know that guy got suspended for that being a dangerous tackle. So
Yeah.
why are you putting that in the promotional material as like something that come and watch this? This will look cool. And it's like that guy got suspended for that. And you made a big deal about that, but now it's in the promotional marketing. Like, and same with Dusty Martin a few years ago when he was in his prime. He'd fend off someone, he'd push him in the head. Intentional, direct contact to the head. Sure, it's not a punch, but if they're running the opposite direction and you're pushing them, and that's a big smack on the head. Sure, it may not cause a concussion, but that was oh, he's amazing. Look what he can do. But same time, that's intentional head-high contact.
Yeah, well, that's like Andrew Gaff when he hit Andrew Brayshaw. He didn't actually give him a punch. He actually hit him with an open palm, but it was a clenched fist. But he hit him with the open palm, and we saw how much damage that did.
Yeah, exactly right. But that's what I mean. Like they come out and they say these things. Like David King on Fox Footy, and the AFL in general. They'll suspend people, and they'll come out and make statements about we got to take concussions seriously. We're looking after the player and all that sort of stuff. But then they'll, have all this marketing material showing all this stuff, that it was deemed wrong in previous seasons. But they go, "Oh, it looks good though, doesn't it?" Like, it's all over the place, and it infuriates me.
Yeah, well, that's it. Yeah, and I guess on the subject of the media, we'll get into Media Watch.
Mm-hmm.
And we had somebody make a little sting for us that we may use.
Ooh, I like that.
I'm going to play it, and I'm hoping that it comes through to your end because I'm actually using technology this time. I'm not putting my phone up to the
we're evolving
up to my microphone. So give me a second, and hoping it comes through. If it doesn't, we'll figure something out.
And this happens every week with Joe Danaher. The amount of times I've seen Charlie Cameron burnt by Joe Danaher with that sort of kick.
Have a look at this because it's wrong on so many fronts. Takes a great mark. Secondly, he plays on, the siren goes. There could have been pressure coming to the teammate that he actually handballed the ball to.
This was him demanding the ball from Hipwood. You can see him in the goal squares demanding it. So that body language isn't good as a teammate, and that's why he would be a frustrating teammate.
The lie detectors.
So I already mentioned, Robbo, Mark Robinson, going on about Harley Reid. The ABC Sport, their articles are pretty good, but their whole article about the match report from our game was basically about Richmond losing more so than us winning, and that's unusual for them. They're fairly balanced normally.
Yep.
Be better, ABC.
Yep,
and
fair enough.
I did mention I was going to have a go at the Raw.
Yeah.
And funnily enough, I got a notification on my Facebook this evening saying that I'm a top fan for the Raw, which is basically me commenting on every post they make about Brisbane, which is many, saying must be a slow news day at the Raw office. I reckon I have that on copy and paste, and
they must love you.
Now I'm a top fan, so they surely do. They basically just recycle. They don't even bother to make their own articles. They just reuse Fox Footy, David King, any other media outlet that has a crack at Brisbane. They just reuse their article.
Yep.
And they don't put any work into it. They've obviously got a big bee in their bonnet about the clubs. And look, the Raw's never been a great source of factual information, but they've gotten even worse this year. I know one of their so-called reporters was booted out of a Brisbane Lions group a couple of years ago for being a dickhead. And it wasn't the group that I'm in. So it was another one where they're a little bit lenient with people's behaviour. So he must have been a real flog.
Yeah,
so maybe that's part of it. But yeah, just like they make David King's witch hunt on Joe Danaher look tame. They're just, it's like every week there's like 3 or 4, 5, 6, 7, whatever, rehashed articles from other media outlets, and it's the same thing every week. It's just find some new material and actually find some original material. Like write articles about stuff that you came up with, not this other crap. And then you can call yourself a media organisation. That's my rant over. You have anything you got to say about the media that we haven't already said?
Yeah, so this one's actually not Lions related, but it's AFL more broadly.
Yep.
So this is one I messaged you earlier, and we had a bit of a laugh about it. So this is in the Damo Barrett and Damien Barrett, I should say, sliding door segment that he does every Friday.
Yeah.
The Collingwood one that he did this time.
Yep.
So he was having a go at the statisticians. So Daniel Hoyne from
Champion Data.
Champion Data.
Yep.
Yeah. So he was on radio saying that Nick Dacos was ranked as the 21st best player from both grounds, both teams combined on the ground for the night.
Yep.
In the most recent match, but the media had him as, best on ground, 10, maximum votes, all this sort of stuff. So the journalist thinks that he knows better than the statisticians, and actually went as far to suggest that they change the way that they record their stats, because clearly the stats are wrong, and the way that the journos watch the game, that's the best way to gauge how well a player actually did. So
yeah,
pull your head in, Damo. Your Nuffy's showing, mate. So
yeah, and
yeah.
I thought he'd been pretty good recently in general across most of the clubs, but that one that's a miss for Damo.
Yeah, so egregious. I couldn't believe it.
And I got a shock, and I didn't know how to react. One of my cousins sent me a message and said, "Hey, Damien Barrett's got a beard now," and I'm like, "Yeah, and who hasn't?" It's It's the age of the hipster. And she's like, "Oh, he actually looks hot now." And I'm like, "No, I'm not reading this."
What?
No. Don't send me that message ever again.
Damien Barrett.
Yeah.
No, surely not.
And like our good mate Jules said the same thing about Chris Scott when he started growing his beard. But
look, I could see the Chris Scott one.
Yeah, Chris Scott's a pretty sexy man.
That's a handsome fella right there.
Yeah, he's a rooster.
But Damien Barrett, no, I can't agree with that one.
Yeah, no, that's a thumbs down from me on that one. Yeah, all right. Well, we'll move on to the top fives, I guess.
Sure.
I'll go first with mine, and mine's a pretty hard one. I've made this really hard for you.
I think mine's going to be pretty easy for you, to be honest.
I reckon,
just in general.
I'm going to take a guess that you'll get one of mine right.
Only one, okay.
Yep. Now,
all right.
I want you to prove me wrong. So mine are the top 5 Hawthorn, Brisbane, Fitzroy crossover players, in my opinion.
As in, had to have played for all three, or can it?
No, they just have to have played for Hawthorn and one of the Bears,
and one of the
Fitzroy or Brisbane Lions.
Cool. Okay, well that makes it a bit easier.
Yeah, that's right. And there's one guy who played for Brisbane Lions, Fitzroy, and Hawthorn, but I'll get to him.
Okay.
So obviously, I'm going to leave out the obvious ones: Jack Gunston, Luke Hodge, Grant Birchall, Brandon Ryan. They're recent. We all know who they are.
Brandon Ryan, pretty stiff, mate. He hasn't even had a chance to prove you wrong on that one.
Oh, correct. Now, how I'm ranking them from 1 to 5 or 5 to 1, however you want to do it, is by how many games they played for their original club.
Okay.
All right. And there's guys that have gone. It's not necessarily guys that have come to us from Hawthorn. It could be guys
so either way. They can go either way, right? Yeah.
It could be guys that have gone to Hawthorn from us.
Right.
Yeah. So honourable mentions: Matthew Burke played one game for Hawthorn in 1989, and then played for Fitzroy. Didn't play too many games there, but I do remember him.
Mm-hmm.
Jason Taylor, another honourable mention, played 7 games for Fitzroy from 86 to 91, and then went to Hawthorn for a little while, played probably 3 or 4 games, and maybe 2 games at Collingwood after that. So those guys didn't really have great careers to speak of. Honourable mentions. So now I'm going to get to number 5. I'm counting down 5 to 1.
Sure.
And the 5th best player in my list, he played 22 games for Hawthorn in 1997. And that was his original club.
Mm-hmm.
And I reckon you should get this one.
That's all the clues you're going to give me?
Yep, at the moment.
Oh, jeez. So he was drafted in 1997 by the Hawthorn. Is that right?
I don't know what year he was drafted, but he has a brother who was drafted earlier. May or may not have played for the Bears in 1995.
Oh.
And this player then went on to play for the Brisbane Lions, I'm going to say from 99 onwards.
No, I actually can't think of a huge amount of crossover players. I mean, you've eliminated all the recent ones, which was,
Yeah.
I feel a bit stiff to me.
All right, I'm going to make it really easy for you. He's currently an AFL coach, senior.
Oh,
That
I'm
narrows it
cycling through them
down.
all.
It's not
It
Michael.
does.
It's not Michael Voss or Ken Hinkley or Ross Lyon.
No, because Ross played for Fitzroy.
Yeah, Ken Hinkley played about 7 games for Fitzroy as well.
Oh, I'm cycling through them all right now.
It's not Chris.
This top five's not going to be generous to me. I'll tell you that right now.
It's not Chris Scott.
Hmm.
That might be a clue.
Well, it's Brad Scott.
Yeah, there you go.
Interesting. I forgot that he played for Hawthorn. I knew he played for another club, but
Yeah,
when I think of Brad Scott, I mean, I think of him as a Brisbane Lions player, obviously.
yeah,
But I think of him so much as like North Melbourne related still for some reason.
yeah. It's still hard seeing him in Essendon gear, isn't it?
It is. It's hard
Yeah.
seeing anyone in Essendon gear, though, to be fair.
He's a bloke. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, John Coleman and Dick Reynolds are pretty good in their day, but
Yeah.
John Coleman. Enough said. And Dick Reynolds, triple Brownlow medalist. But yeah, other than that, probably I know Tommy Cutler was pretty had some pretty nice pipes hanging off his shoulders, and that was about it.
Just a little sidetrack about Tom Cutler. I remember watching a VFL game with him once, and he, like, standing, no jump, leaped over a fence to get a ball once. And I remember thinking, like,
Oh, he was so
how
athletic.
amazed I was. Like, he got no run up and, like, literally just, like, was standing, just walked up to it, standing, and just jumped over, like, a 4-foot fence, like, effortlessly to get a ball. I was like,
He was
Jesus Christ.
so athletic, wasn't he?
Yeah. He was unreal.
or Tony Butler, as BT used to call him.
And I remember, I'm not going to name the person, but there was back in the, when I was an admin of the group that you're an admin of on Facebook, there was a notorious person who would, every week when we were having problems, their solution was always get Tom Cutler in. Get him in.
I know exactly who you're talking about. I haven't seen him around for a long time. Maybe he's gone into hibernation since we've been good. Okay. So now I don't expect you to get this guy. If you do, I will give you $20.
Ooh,
And an icy,
take it out of the kitty.
Yeah, and an icy cold can of Coke.
Beauty.
From the Triple M Rock Patrol. So this guy played 30 games for Fitzroy from 1990 to 1992.
Okay.
His surname could also be the name of something you buy at a bakery that may or may not have icing on top. And his first name is something that AFL footballers do during a game. And yeah, obviously went on to play.
His first name is something that players do during a game.
Yep. And we did it many more times than what the who did we play last week? The Tigers did. I would hazard a guess that there's no way you're going to guess this one. He wasn't a high-profile footballer at either Fitzroy or Hawthorn.
Give me a sec.
Are you Googling Fitzroy's AFL tables list from 1990?
No, there'd be too many people on that to even try and get through. Oh, the clues, there's some good clues there. So
yeah. We could be here all night, so I'm just gonna I'm gonna tell you because you wouldn't even have heard of this bloke, Mark Bunn. So Mark, they take Marks and Bun, you buy it at a bakery. the old Boston bun or
I,
whatever.
no, I get it, but I'm just thinking, like, is he really like the fourth best in your opinion, or is like
No, this is based on games played for the original
Okay.
club. So yeah,
right? Okay,
obviously not if you include Luke Hodge and whatever.
yeah.
And did you know, like Luke Hodge and Grant Birchall are actually pretty high up in the list of all-time games played for the Brisbane Lions?
What?
They're like mid-tier.
Virtual
was-
as well.
Yeah, he played about 40 odd games.
Yeah, I guess when you consider how many people like play one or two and then get delisted, it makes sense. To be
Yeah,
honest.
all right. So, during our bad old days, we had a lot of guys play like 3 or 4 games. And when I was
Unfortunately, yeah.
scrolling through the list of guys on AFL tables the other day when I was making this list, there's a lot of guys I was looking at them going, oh, he only played like 3 games or 4 games. I thought he played a lot more, but yeah.
There's someone on my list because I always include the goals that they kicked in my
Yeah.
top 5. There's one on there that I swore he kicked way more goals than he's credited with, but yeah, that's an interesting one. We'll get to that at some
Maybe
point.
just the goals he kicked were really good.
You know what would be an interesting top 5? And just a little side note, we're getting a little sidetracked here.
That's all right.
Guys who didn't do well with us, but could have done potentially would have done better if they were drafted as we were, had a better coaching system and stuff now. So guys we drafted through the 2010s who bombed and left the
Yeah.
AFL system, if we'd got them in now, would they have had bigger, better careers?
That's a good one. That's more.
Mm.
I reckon it's more of like a list management thing. So
Mm.
yeah, okay. I'll move through this quickly. Now, so this guy, same age as me, born in the same hospital, 6 days after me. Drafted from the Northern Knights, I think they were called back then. They still are. Under 18s team, 47 games for Fitzroy from 94 to 96. 8 games for Brisbane in 1997. He was one of the 8 players that went up there after the merger.
Yep.
And then he left and went to the Hawks. Had a pretty good career at the Hawks. And he was an assistant coach at a couple of clubs and may have been a senior coach. And when I say may, he wasn't actually appointed officially, but he may have done some senior coaching for a reason.
Mm.
And only recently, in the last couple of years, stepped away from coaching.
Is that Shane Clayton?
No.
Because Clayton was involved in coaching for a while, wasn't he?
Yeah, and Scott
We had
Clayton.
his
Scott
son for a bit, yeah.
Scott Clayton, who's Josh Clayton's dad,
Yes.
played for Fitzroy and the Bears.
Yep.
And is now one of the best recruiters in the business, or still has been for a long time.
Is it John Barker?
Yes, it is John Barker.
Yes.
You
I'm
got
counting
2.
that, even though it was my second guess.
My next clue was going to be, something that if your dog does this a lot, people might say that this is what they are, a barker.
I'm sure I would have got that clue, to be honest.
Now, you growing up in a Bears family may
Yes.
know this next guy. Premiership player for Hawthorn in the 80s, I think multiple times, maybe twice.
Well, they did win a lot of premierships in the 80s, so.
Yeah, he played for the Hawks from 88 to 94, so I'm going to say he probably won 3 premierships with them.
Okay, yeah.
89 games, then played for the Bears, and I reckon he played a few games for the Brisbane Lions as well. And he's a very, very handsome man still, and he may or may not be involved in the Hawthorn board currently. I can't give too much away more than that.
Yeah, look, I'm not a huge. I don't really know who's on their board or anything like that. Is Dunstall still on their board? I know he never played for us, but he was a Queenslander.
Yeah, no,
I know he's.
don't
I don't
know.
know if he's still on their board. Oh, nah.
Andy Gowers.
Oh, Gowers.
Yep.
Is there any other? Is he related to
Billy's father.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Yep. And that was going to be a clue. I was going to say he has a son called Billy, but
Yeah.
yeah. And my number one, I don't expect you to get this, but some of the old time listeners might get it before I announce who it is. 109 games for Hawthorn from 83 to 90. Multiple premierships. So I reckon in the 89 grand final at halftime, he was by far the best player on the ground before Gary Ablett Sr. went nuts. Blonde hair, ended up playing a couple of seasons at the Bears after Hawthorn. I'm going to say 2 or 3 seasons. And his first name's Peter. And his last name could be a fruit if you take away the last letter. Actually, if
take away the last letter of his name, or
no, of the fruit. I just realised that if you add a T, T to the end of his name, it'll be a fruit. You're not going to get this. So,
oh, gee, I don't even know. Like, I'm trying to think of fruits that end in T.
Peter Curran.
Oh no!
Yeah,
never have gotten that.
Peter Curran, good footballer.
Yeah, no.
Yeah. All right. So, I guess hit me with yours.
Sure. So, I reckon this one's going to be pretty easy for you. So
what's your top 5 first?
My top 5 is surnames in starting with Mick.
Okay.
As, that's something that you and I both have in common.
We do.
Yeah. So, players from Fitzroy Bears or the Merge Club.
Yep.
With the last name starting with Mick, which actually I looked it up. There's a bloody lot of those.
Yeah, there would be,
especially Fitzroy if you go all the way back.
And our surnames both have connections to West Australian football clubs. With Adam McPhee playing for the Dockers and Andrew McGovern playing for the Dockers as well, and then Jeremy McGovern playing for the Eagles.
True, and his brother out of Carlton now.
Yeah, but that's not West Australian football, so I don't care. Okay, go.
My number 5. So, he's born in 1996, played for Tyrone FC, was drafted at pick number 62 in the 2014 draft, and has 27 goals to his name.
That be my boy Connor McKenna.
That is correct, yes.
There we go.
And that was the one I mentioned before. Remember I was saying that there was a guy here who I thought had way more goals than was credited with?
That's same. McKenna.
27. I thought he would have had way more than that.
Last year when he kicked a couple of early goals in the season, I said to my son, he's kicking 25 goals this year from halfback. And he ended up kicking 5 or something like that. So.
Well, he almost would have doubled his career tally at that point.
Yeah.
Okay, number 4. Born in 1983, played for South Fremantle, was drafted at pick 13 in the 2000 draft, and kicked 170 career goals.
Brisbane Lions player, obviously. Ash McGrath.
Correct.
Yeah, like I couldn't remember if he was from East or South Freo, but yeah. There we go.
Apparently.
Yeah.
And
good breeding.
These are probably going to be pretty easy for you, to be honest.
Yeah, sorry, just quickly, a good breeding ground for Indigenous players, South Fremantle too.
Yeah.
Yeah, anyway, we'll move on from that.
So, born in 1993, played for Glenelg FC.
Yep.
Drafted at number 66 in the 2011 draft. And has kicked 165 career goals.
Glenelg.
Pretty sure that's how you pronounce it, right?
Yeah. I'm trying to think, like, guys who've played for us from Glenelg. Obviously, there's Lockie Neal, Lincoln McCarthy, and Jared Lyons, but oh man, I should know this. I obviously I do know it, but my brain's gone. My brain has just emptied itself out. No, go for it.
Well, you actually did say his name, Lincoln McCarthy.
Oh, I did I? Oh, you idiot! Oh, I told you my brain is fried.
You said his name, but you didn't put it as your guess. I can't give you that one. I would. You're probably going to get the rest of them, so I'm not going to give you that one.
We'll see, because my brain's pretty frazzled at the moment.
I couldn't believe that. Anyway, We'll move on.
Yep. Hey, I'm only human after
That's
all.
it. That's it, mate. So, born in 1998, he played for the North Ballarat Rebels. He was drafted at pick number 3 in the 2016 draft and has
That would
101
be
career goals.
Sir Hubert McCluggage,
That is exactly right.
and that's McCluggage, not McLuggage.
That's right.
Dwayne Russell, I'm looking at you.
Dwayne.
Yeah.
So, my number one, this one might be a little trickier, but you might not have an issue, but we'll see. Born in 1973, played for Glenelg FC,
Yeah.
like another person mentioned on the list. Drafted at number 22 in the 1993 draft and kicked 232 career goals.
So he could have played for Fitzroy or the Bears.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think anyone from Fitzroy kicked that many goals.
I don't think Fitzroy kicked that many goals.
Oh. In their entire history, they might have. No, look, I'm being mean. Fitzroy
No, of course, we're just teasing.
had a lot of good years, and
We love the club.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm a fifth generation Fitzroy supporter, so
That's right.
fifth or fourth. I'll have to look at the family tree, but it's a lot of generations.
Well, you got your kids too, so there's at least 5
yeah,
generations.
yep, that's right. Yep. Yeah. Geez, I should know this one, shouldn't I?
Mm. You'll be kicking yourself if you don't get this.
I know. I'm already kicking myself now. So yeah, okay, Glen Ridge. No, just give it to me.
Craig McRae.
Oh man, I think I'd wiped out Craig McRae because of the Collingwood connection.
Yeah, I have mixed feelings about it. Like, I love him so much. But
Yeah, same.
I'm glad he got a flag as a coach, but I just wish it was for any other club
Yeah, it's like
and not against us.
Yeah, well, it's like yesterday I was talking to a guy I know who's a Freo supporter about Lockie Schultz, and I said, like when he was a Freo, he was my favourite player from another club because of the Williamstown connection mainly, but also because I just like the way he went about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, now that he's at Collingwood, I can't have him.
Yeah. Once he's done there, though, we'll welcome him back with open arms.
Yeah, that's it. All right, so yeah, that was your number one, wasn't it?
Yep, that's it.
Yeah, so I guess we'll just quickly do our pods of the week and our movies of the week.
Yep.
So my pod of the week this week is The Grade Cricketer. That's a cricket podcast. Couple of guys, Sam Perry and Ian Higgins. They were great cricketers in New South Wales, and I think Higo played for St Kilda in Melbourne for a little bit. They're basically a cricket version of us, but much better. They can waffle on for 2.5 hours, talking absolute shit, really, but it's entertaining and it makes sense. They get all the big name cricketers on their show now. Some of their humour absolutely has me screaming in laughter.
Yep.
I just want to say to people, do not listen to their episode where they talk about the trough man, because that comes with a very severe language warning. And yeah, but like they get some good interviews, and they also have their YouTube channel, and I believe they have a much more mild version of their show that is on 7 Mate, but I don't watch Channel 7, so I don't know for sure.
Sure.
So The Grade Cricketer, really good if you want to laugh, and a good sort of as a point of difference. And they are both GWS Giants supporters, so now I've added 3 of their 5 supporters in the last 2 pods of the week. So yeah, what have you got?
So my podcast this week is a podcast called The Wild Times Podcast. I'm not sure if you've heard of that one or not.
No, but it sounds a bit like my life sometimes.
Yeah, true that. So it's basically it's 3 guys, American guys, and it's a podcast about animals and wildlife and things like that. So the main host is a guy named Forrest Galante, who's a wildlife biologist.
Yep.
And then the other 2 co-hosts are his friends, but they also work in the entertainment industry and stuff, and they're usually like producers of your big animal docos and things like that. So he usually he's a presenter of the documentaries and things like that.
So
The
I've
other two-
probably watched some of them without even realizing, because my daughter and I love watching animal
Yeah.
documentaries.
Probably.
Yeah.
And the other two guys are kind of behind the camera and help like get the shows off the ground and
Yep.
all of the nuts and bolts of actually making a show like that. So a lot of the podcast is them talking about docos that they have coming up, a lot of just general animal stuff. So if like there's animal news, so if there's something significant, like one of the big shows that Forrest, the main host, got famous for was he did a show called Extinct or Alive, where he worked for Animal Planet, and he would go around the world and he would try and find out like if there's a specific animal each episode and whether it was actually extinct or not. So recently extinct stuff, not like, a woolly mammoth still alive, because obviously, they're gone, but things that had been ruled to be extinct within the last like 100 years, is there anything like still remaining? And he's got his show had about a 50% strike rate on him actually finding like the last members of a few different species and getting them on film and stuff
Actually,
like that.
actually sounds pretty fascinating for someone like me, who's a nature lover and animal lover. So,
It's great. I highly recommend it. It's entertaining as well. Like they play a lot of games. One of the games that they play on the podcast is the producer of the show will come up with a hypothetical scenario, and they have to combine three different parts from three different animals to and whichever hybrid would be the best for that particular scenario, and then it gets judged and all that sort of stuff. So a bit of a language warning. It's three middle-aged men, drinking and a lot of language, but it's a fun show, and if you like animals, highly recommend checking it out as well.
yeah, definitely, I will look into that. So, so my movie of the week, moving right along. Sorry to rush you there.
Sure.
Which I don't normally do, and it's just more because my brain's starting to go into a different dimension.
That's all good, mate. It's Friday night.
Yeah, it is. So my movie of the week is The Perfect Storm. Came out early 2000s. Features our patron Saint Mark Wahlberg.
Yep.
George Clooney is in it as well, and I think it's based loosely on a true story of a fishing boat called the Andrea Gale that caught up in a once in a lifetime storm, and it tells a bit of a story about it. And now I actually saw it in IMAX, and it wasn't technically an IMAX movie, but I saw it there. And some of the scenes, like this is a movie you have to watch on a big screen, whether you've got a big like projector in your basement, or you've got a 70-inch TV or whatever.
Yeah.
Some of the scenes they filmed, obviously they would have used a bit of CGI of the big storm at the end and the big waves out in the Atlantic Ocean or whatever. Absolutely amazing, top class. It was a bit of a critical bomb, and a bit of a box office bomb, I think, at the time. But Clooney and Wahlberg do play great roles. It's got a few of the other sort of guys that were in a lot of movies at the time as well, that you'll recognise if you sit back and watch it. It is, look, I really enjoyed the movie. I'm assuming you've seen it as well.
I have, yeah. I've only seen it once, probably about 15 years ago or so, but I really enjoyed it, yeah.
Yeah. I went out and bought it on VHS when it first came out.
Oh, wow, yeah.
DVDs have been out for a few years, but I was one of those people hanging on to the old, the old times.
Yep. Doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, so that's a good one to check out, The Perfect Storm. What have you got for us?
So mine is 1997's Event Horizon.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, so I'm assuming you've seen it as well?
Yeah, I've only seen it sort of a couple of times when it first came out, though. I haven't seen it since.
So obviously it's got Sam Neill, beloved Australian actor, famous for Jurassic Park.
Yep.
As one of the main characters. I think Lawrence Fishburne is also in it as well.
Sam Neill, famous for being in the Russell Crowe, Phar Lap, and Keith Urban school of Kiwis that we adopted as our own.
Exactly, yeah. That's right.
Darren Hitch is another one.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
Of course. So it's for those who don't know, it's a sci-fi / horror movie. I won't spoil the twist for you because that's one of the best parts of the movie.
Yeah, but definitely.
Basically it starts with they've lost connection to a ship. They need to go to the ship, and it's all in space, obviously.
Yeah.
They've lost connection with the ship, and they send another ship to try and figure out what's going on the other ship. Get there, everyone's missing. So I won't spoil what happens, but it's going to lead you to think one thing's happening and maybe something else completely different happens. So it's highly recommend it. It's a very unique sci-fi movie. The angle that they go with it is something that I don't think I've seen in any other kind of similar movies, to be honest. So yeah, I highly recommend that one.
Yeah, no, it's a good one. I had a couple of mates who were really into it at the time. That and because they had all like those disaster movies at the time as well, and you had the one with Bruce Willis and Liv Tyler and the asteroid and
Armageddon.
That's the one. Aerosmith soundtrack was in all of those movies, and
Yep.
yeah,
That's the one where they get all the oil riggers to go fly in space to destroy the comet.
that's the one, and that had a lot of the same actors as The Perfect Storm as well. So
Yeah.
playing the same sort of role. So yeah, two really good movies there, a couple of really good pods as well to get into. And I'll just quickly mention the Dwayne Zingers, and I'll stitch the actual audio in to the final product. Luke Davies-Uniacke of North Melbourne kicked a goal, and he's run with the OMG LDU.
Hands it off to LDU. The dance from LDU. OMG LDU.
I'm never a fan of people abbreviating the hyphenated names. Like, we had Cam Ellis Yeoman, and everyone used to just write CEY. And I would always just be like, no, it's Yeoman.
Yeah.
And you got LDU, you got TDK, Tom DeConing, or whatever. It's like, I don't know. I've been OCD about people who do that. But
yeah, I mean, like, it's not something like in a conversation that you would do.
No. It's only when you're typing on the internet, I reckon.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And one of the other ones that this is actually a really good interview with Dwayne Russell on the podcast called The Footy with Broden Kelly.
Oh, yeah.
Broden Kelly's the guy from Auntie Donna. If people don't know who he is, he's in a lot of TV commercials as well as the Auntie Donna show. He's a comedian. And I'm
not a huge fan of Auntie Donna, but I've heard that it's the podcast that he does footy related. It's pretty good.
Yeah, no, it's one of the best ones. I listen to it every week. They do 2 or 3 episodes a week, and they get comedians and actors and whatever on instead of getting footballers, and they have really good sort of outlook on football. But you had Dwayne Russell on, so Broden used to ring into SEN a fair bit on our talkback line, and then him and Dwayne sort of struck up a friendship, and he had him on the show early this week. And mate, Dwayne Russell's a really funny guy. He really is.
Oh, yeah. Sure.
When you get him away from commentating football on SEN, I was blown away. I thought, geez, he's really, he's knowledgeable and he's funny and he loves his history, and he's got a thing with chickens. If you want to know what that's about, you have to listen to the Broden Kelly's interview with him. But yeah, like one of the things he came up with, and I'm going to stitch the full audio about this, was he went on about one of the secrets of being a good commentator is just getting the names right. Probably having a dig at a few of his contemporaries, I think.
I was going to say, and himself a few times.
Yeah. So he used the example of, he showed 3 examples of Hipwood handballing to Cameron.
You just got to get the names right. I mean, I'm paid, first and foremost, just get the names right. Yeah. So once you get the names right, so Hipwood, Cameron, Lohman.
Yeah, okay.
Then you can fill in the bits in between. Hipwood, handballs to Cameron, kicks it along to Lohman. So, and then you can get your light and shade. Hipwood picks it up, gives it to Cameron, long to Lohman.
And that's the last layer you're doing?
Well, yeah, the light and shade is, you know what it's like when you're acting.
Yeah.
When you need light and shade, you need to project.
Yes.
And you need to get your lines right. So to me, it's you got to get the names right.
Yes, no.
Because as soon as I find out who it is that's got the ball,
yeah,
then once I know it's Lohman, I'm away.
You didn't hear anything interesting in commentary that I may have missed anywhere from anyone?
No, not particularly. The only thing I wanted to bring up was the Damo Barrett sliding doors moment that I mentioned before. That was pretty much the only one that kind of irked me through the week.
Yep. And thanks to our good friend Deb, I did watch the baby race finally. She sent me a video of it. She got a bit bossy with me this week and tried to make me watch TV. And,
oh, God.
And I said, this is getting a little bit too serious. And she sent me a video instead. And I watched it, and when you listen back, Deb, because you give me some great feedback on the show as well, and I love it. It's honest
Loyal
feedback.
listener.
Yeah, she's been, obviously been on the show a couple of times, and we'll get her back soon.
Definitely.
The feedback that she gives me is great every week, and yeah, I enjoyed watching the baby race from the footy the other day. So yeah, I haven't actually messaged her back to say that I enjoyed it, but yeah, she'll listen to this. Yeah, I guess all that's left now is for our tips and our predictions for the game.
Yeah, so this is an interesting one because obviously we haven't we've had a pretty horrid run against Hawthorn
Yeah,
in the recent term, but also where we're playing them, like you said at the opener, we haven't played them at Marvel in either a really long time or ever.
yeah, and a Hawthorn fan that you and I both know, no name, no pack drill, had a bit of a giggle, claiming that Brisbane begged the AFL to play the game at Marvel instead of the MCG. But funnily enough, our recent record at the MCG is pretty good. So
Yeah, has been, hasn't it?
yeah, and when we were bad, we used to beat Hawthorn all the time, and now that we're good, they beat us all the time. It's weird.
Yeah.
And
Well,
that,
it's an interesting team. We have an interesting relationship with that team.
yeah,
You know,
and that
I wouldn't say
weirdo,
it's a rivalry. It's just a weird matchup.
yeah, and their fans seem to hate us more than anyone else, except maybe the Eagles in Essendon. But and yeah, like that weirdo game in 2020, round one, where they found out at halftime that the season was getting postponed, and Dev Rob made his debut that day.
Yes, that was a very strange one. And didn't it so we knew halfway through the game and they didn't know, and then
Yeah, they didn't find out, and Melbourne played the Eagles straight afterwards, and they didn't get told till after the game, and that was one of the weirdest, the two weirdest games of football I've ever watched.
Yeah, because obviously the commentary and everything knew. So they're kind of
Yeah,
just going through the motions to finish the game. It was so strange.
yeah, and we at home had been suspecting it anyway.
Yeah.
Because they called off the women's grand final a couple of weeks earlier as well. So
Yeah, it was weird times.
yeah, cost Freo their only chance of ever winning a premiership at any level.
Yeah, well, I mean, they cancelled the grand final. That's such a
Yeah.
weird season because there's a year in the AFLW where there was no grand final, and then there was a year where they had two grand finals. In the
Yeah,
same
they
year
had two seasons
because
in one
they
year.
changed. It's
Yeah,
just such mishandling. Anyway, let's not go down that rabbit hole.
Yeah.
We'll leave that until AFLW season
I,
starts.
re-
or
I,
closer
rec-
to.
I reckon we'll get Aurora Hodges on for that
Yeah,
discussion.
for sure.
She
Yep.
has some very good theories on those sort of things.
Yeah, love to hear from her.
Yeah. So what are you tipping in prediction wise so far?
I think we'll win. I think it'll be just because the Hawks aren't doing well at the moment either.
Yep.
But I mean, that's never really mattered in the past when we played them. I'm going to go 32-point win.
Yeah, and the media have really tried their hardest to get the Hawks to fire up this week, haven't they, after what happened last week?
Yep.
And a lot of controversy about the last few minutes of that game, but I think you just move on and go on to 1 week at a time. And
Yeah, I don't think they're going to come into this game with a burning passion and, really try and stick it to us. I think it'll just be a normal week for them, just like it's a normal week for us.
I think so. But I think we win. I've got us down for coming from behind early. I think they'll get a bit of a jump on us.
Yep.
Maybe 2-3 goals up at quarter time, and I have us getting up by 26.
Okay. Yep.
Jack Payne 10 plus intercepts. I can't see anyone in Hawthorn's forward line beating him one-on-one.
No, I also can't really see anyone, kicking a bag from their team.
Yeah. I mean, look, their mids are going to get plenty of the ball. That's inevitable. John Newcomb's got a pretty good record going one-on-one with Lockie Neal as well.
Yep.
So that could be an interesting one. And I've got Harry Sharp down for 1 goal as well.
Okay. I'll put Brandon Ryan down to get a goal in his debut game. Just one.
Yep. I'm happy with that. If he gets any more than that, that's definitely a bonus. And hopefully he does. I would love to see it. And not for the reason a lot of people say to put pressure on Eric Hipwood, but because it advantages our club greatly. And yeah, I'd love to see the form from the last couple of weeks carry on into this game as well.
Yep. Sounds good, mate.
Yeah. You got anything else you want to add about the game or anything else?
That's me for now. I'll be watching both games this weekend. So
Yep.
yeah, we'll see how we go. Hopefully it's a good one.
So what have we got with the VFL? What's happening there?
So we're playing Box Hill, which
Yep.
makes sense.
Yeah.
So I did look it up before just to see if we're having a bye next week. So give me just a sec. My phone's playing up.
Yeah. While you're looking that up, just for the listeners, if they're interested, they'll be watching the game anyway. At the Optus Stadium currently, as we're going to air recording. While you're at Dockers, 41, Collingwood 45. It's about 7 minutes into the third quarter. Looks like another stimulating, high-scoring game by the Dockers.
So we are playing Box Hill, and it's tomorrow actually. So it's a day before the senior game.
Yep.
At 1:05 p.m. at Fenju Stadium, which I'm assuming is Box. Yeah, it's in Box Hill.
Yeah, that's the Box Hills. Unfortunately, I can't make it to that. I've got some personal stuff to take care of tomorrow.
How far of a drive is that from you, Box Hill?
Oh, it's probably about an hour and a half. I've got to drive through. Look, if I don't want to drive through the city, I've got to pay tolls. There's 2 toll roads, but if I don't want to pay tolls, then I've got to drive through the city to get there. Yeah. But yeah, I did actually go out to where that stadium is a couple of weeks ago when I took a friend of mine to help her buy a car. So, picked the wrong week, unfortunately. But yeah, so I will try and have it on in the background and no volume, unfortunately, and try and sort of keep checking what's going on. And obviously you'll be watching it as well.
Yeah, I should be able to watch that one as it happens. We'll see how the poor quality of the stream goes because I've had some gripes about that in the past. So
as have I,
and
as have many fans of many VFL teams this year. You generally get the home commentators who it's like the old press red for red days.
Yep.
And it doesn't matter who you go for. As soon as you're the away team, you have that problem.
Yep.
So yeah, that's it. That's a wrap. And again, thanks to everybody who's been listening and participating in our stuff on social media as well, and giving us some good feedback via Messenger or one-on-one. And it's been great. We love it. And keep supporting us, and we'll keep bringing you our wonderful magic that we produce. And hopefully, as I said, we'll hopefully have a special guest to go through the mid-season draft with us before it happens. And
I'm excited, mate. The person that you're talking about has really good insight. But I love list management stuff as well. I'm not as into the numbers in the books as that person, but I get really fascinated by that sort of stuff. So I'm excited for that.
Yeah, and look, if it doesn't happen, this person will come on at another time. They are pretty busy at the moment, so they were too busy to come on tonight. They had some appointments and stuff. So, we'll make it happen at some point, even if it's not about the mid-season draft. It might be about trade period or whatever. But
sure.
That about wraps it up. All right, too easy. I've got to go now anyway, so I'm a family man. I got family stuff to do, and I'm sure you do too. And
that's right.
Yep. All right. So go Lions this week.
Yep. I'll talk to you over the weekend. Have a good one.
No worries. Cheers.
See you, mate. Bye-bye.
See ya.